Dear Mother and Father, I have neglected to mention a major part of the Abbey, and that is the gardens and the fields. What goes into these things? How large are they? With what variety have they been planted? Who cares for them? Each of these questions I would seek to answer in this letter. I almost shiver to think I'd spend all of this time at the Abbey without fully describing and relating my experience here. For I hesitate to say that I would ever spend my entire life here. Even if it were but for a few short years, even that might prove too much for me. As a budding man of letters, the thought of capturing myself by choice and locking myself away amongst men whose greatest care and intention almost never fares beyond the wall they choose not to leave. It discourages me greatly. But I am not a canceller of plans, a terminator of my own dreams. There is more to life, it is certain, than giving up on my intentions just because the future might be dark and foreboding. But, my dear parents, let's be clear that that is not even the case here at the Abbey. In truth, it is hard to imagine a brighter, more wholesome place. Think of it. Together, united around common purpose, similarly dressed and believing all of the same sex, plunging forward down a predetermined, agreed-to path. This is the commitment, the drive, and purpose which founded kingdoms from the twisting sands and rock piles of the past. Consider how the Abbey probably first arose. Necessarily, there was a unification of purpose, intentionality, and resource. Then, there was execution, application of force and will, fighting against nature and perhaps sinister forces of the deeper woods and caves of this wide planet Rua. Without intentionality, without dreamers, and those that would not neglect their hand to the plow of imposing hard work and difficult things, what good would all the rich plans and discussions have been? Needless to say, the Abbey would have crumpled before it formed, as if ashes spawning from nothing, from no source of heat. From that context, can you tell I've poured many hours into considering this? From that context, consider then the institution that is the gardens and cultivated vegetation of the Abbey. First, the builders of the Abbey decided to piece together mounds of unimaginably heavy stone and wood, fitting all together into this masterpiece of their respectable crafts. But life is sure not to neglect a structure alone in the forest, or resting out in the middle of a wasteland. Always, even in the palaces of the richest kings, something comes along and invites itself in to live, be it spider, wanderer, lizard, or some common pest. Even the weed, the fern, and the common wildflower cannot resist a chance to reside amongst such things. It seems that for the designers of the Abbey, then, it is not so much that they chose to include the verdant life I see daily. No. Instead, it is as if the architects chose to strike a deal with it all. Greenery and shrub, I picture them saying, "What is the point of fighting you? We know you will always come back around." I picture the green leaf bobbing in agreement, silent. "So then," says the founding monks of yore, "let us agree. Join us in careful placement, and we will tend to you for the rest of your days. Is it not much better to agree than to disagree? To make peace and not war?" All this plotting and planning thus reveals itself before me each day that I wake. Rosy roses, plump apples, grain and barley, humming gardens, whisking with bees and other dodging insects, hovering and shooting about, while the pansies, petunias, and peonies sway in the breeze. Chrysanthemums, not in their prime as of yet, gathering strength to bloom into full power and strength when the moment strikes their little limbs just right. Saucers, daisies, bells and spikes, clusters, globes, and blaring trumpets, and the insect life, some of which I've said already. Never a truer statement than that a king cannot keep out from his home the insects that would sup and dine. The stinging and careless, buzzing, flying creatures never leave the gardens alone, wherever they are found, wrapping around the buildings and higher points. And the butterflies. The butterflies. I do not care for moths so much as I think... What now?
My toe!
Why is he even here? I have to find my way back to where I was. Alright. Yes. They rely too much on fur and fuzz to show their beauty. See, in my opinion, it is the essence of the butterfly to be paper thin, carefree, and flapping as if a book falling to the ground. And yet, all it takes is to clip the flight from such a creature. All it takes is to whack it with a solid thump, and it crumples to the ground. Enough of this infalling discussion. I had better move on to other topics. Though, my hand begins to cramp, so let me draw this letter shorter than longer. Some big news here. Brother Lankely has disappeared. No one can find him. And that's a welcome piece of news, you can imagine. But we don't know if he's okay. You know, I wanted to joke that he went off to join the circus, but I figured I'd better shut my mouth while the silent prayer was being had before supper. I would think he's planning on returning at the moment least expected, when the rest of us would never guess he'd leave or come back. Well, I was wading in the creek again when I came hopping out. But this time, my whoops and hollers of pain were witnessed by Brother Theodore. Why was I whooping and hollering? Why was I in the river? Well, again, a fish bit me. Understand, don't be confused. We are not talking about a sharp mouth with sharp parts or tiny little daggers for teeth. We are saying literal, small, flat, incisors and molars, painful enough to leave marks, but not enough to cut away the skin. I can only imagine that I upset their nest, or whatever a fish might have. Now I need to dig into them more, as now Brother Theodore, like me, is highly interested in discovering just whatever kind of devilish fish is monitoring that river, waiting for me, or for my leg in particular. Do you remember? It was the same leg as last time. Well, work continues on the pieces being developed and structured by Brother Silvas and his team, though the work is painful and slow. Should they be finished by next year, I would not be surprised. And I am looking forward to when Brother Medin returns in the coming months. Unless he returns sooner? I ask myself, would the life that Brother Medin has be the most attractive kind of living to me? Would I go out and chase random leads to learn what has been forgotten about? To meet new people and places, leaving behind the known in comparison to the unknown? It is a most intoxicating thought. Imagining that each day were fresh, new, completely unknown, but sure to be full of everything, even though half of it were nothing. If that would be my life, would it really be that bad? But that's the future, and it is not my own. Yet. Maybe. Who can say? Your darling son, William Faingood.